Lesson 4, Cooperation and Conflict. If you look at the picture at the bottom of your page, it says, in the beginning, the colonists and American Indians had peaceful encounters. Now, we read about this in our first Thanksgiving book. We talked about how the Native Americans originally helped who we would call the Pilgrims. But things took a turn for the worst in some cases. When the first English colonists arrived, the American Indians were generally helpful to them, especially with farming. Relations would soon change, though, as colonists began expanding farther into American Indian territory. Wars broke out, and with the introduction of gunpowder, the wars became more violent. Colonists and American Indians. Before the colonists arrived in the Americas, the American Indians used the land as needed. They used it for farming, and some showed some of the colonists how to grow crops. They did not have a system of private land ownership. Instead, they believed that everyone could work together on the land. The members of American Indian groups held that no individual owned land. When the European settlers and the American Indian leaders made agreements about a piece of land, the settlers thought they then owned the land. Indian groups thought they were agreeing only to share or rent the land. By American Indian custom, land could not be sold. This was just one of the many cultural differences that caused conflict. Another source of conflict was that the Europeans did not consider themselves to be under any American Indian nation's rule. Instead, they claimed the land in the names of their home countries. The European settlers started creating boundaries, or lines that divide an area. The settlers also began to use force with weapons. As the conflict between the colonists and the American Indians grew, distrust also began to grow. In the excerpt from the novel Encounter by Jane Yolen, below, the American Indian narrator tells of his experience when the colonists came to his Caribbean island. So this is what the excerpt from the book. That just means it's either a couple paragraphs from a chapter or just a little section from the book. So it was we lost our lands to the strangers from the sky. We gave our souls to their gods. We took their speech into our mouths, forgetting our own. Our sons and daughters became their sons and daughters, no longer true humans, no longer ours. That is why I, an old man now, dream no more dreams. That is why I sit here wrapped in a stranger's cloak, counting the stranger's bells on a string, telling my story. May it be a warning to all the children and all the people in every land. So you can see things kind of got intense a little bit. So what they want you to do at the bottom of the page, our first reading checkpoints, is compare and contrast. Complete the diagram with information about the dispute over land between the colonists and American Indians. Now, we have filled out these charts many times before. It's called the Venn diagram. They've already labeled the sections for you. On your left, you have the colonists. On the right, you have the American Indians. Now, in the middle, okay, I'm going to put a little arrow. This means what they were similar with. So what was the same, okay? And if you cannot write it in the darkened area, just kind of put it on a piece of loose leaf or up in one of your blank areas that you could just draw an arrow to. So what they want you to do is the disputes over land. So colonists, they said, wanted to own the land, and the American Indians did not own land. Now, there is at least one more that can go in each one of these sides, and there is one similarity that you will find. Please make sure you go back into the text and find that information.